Welcome to life. And what it is, right, is that you, after a short period of adjustment, will float your efforts, be they physical, intellectual, or emotional, in exchange for the materials you will need to live. That's reality. It's always been that way. It will always be that way. And there is no reasonable argument you can make against it. And I looked at the person slapping my arse and I said, "Is that so?" I didn't say it really. I was a newborn baby. They don't speak. Just as, naturally, nobody would really say something like that to a newborn baby anyway. And if they did, they're probably not the sort of person you'd want in the delivery room. "Is that so?" I said. "Well, after looking at it from all the angles, evaluating all the possible outcomes within my capacity to do so, and by drawing conclusions based on objective foundations, I find the notion of reason to be overrated. Fuck reason. I'm not reasonable. I'm a baby." Then I got my first solid food. Soap. Yeah, they used to do that to children when I was growing up. A child says a swear word and then they get a mouthful of soap. And you know why the adults did that to kids, don't you? It's 'cause they were cunts. Due to the peculiarity of the English language, that last missive was a bit ambiguous, and I feel it necessary to clarify which group I'm insulting. Was it the foul-mouthed kids or the adults abusing them with personal hygiene products? Yes. Now that that's crystal clear and the theme of this routine has been cast, let's get to a true story that I'm going to recount in an objective fashion. And while that is certainly true, bear in mind that this story is only presented from my perspective, because usually there would be a requirement for some sort of counter-narrative. But I can assure you, dear viewer, that in this case, not only does any counter-narrative not matter, but the people who would proffer such a narrative don't fucking matter either, being that they were police, and the only good police is one bleeding out dead at my feet having just been shot in their silly cop face. Truly, fuck the police. You think I'm joking, which is what I find amusing. It's the end of my shift. I can't give identifying details about my work because HIPAA, a secrecy act where violations are punished more harshly than treason, forbids it. But it's the end of my shift, 13 hours of it. My relief was late and I can't leave before they relieve me. I get extremely annoyed when people are late for the beginning of a shift because it delays my life for no good reason. At this job there is something of a culture of lateness, but it's not usually 20 minutes late. Under usual circumstances my radiometer just jots the level where my face says, "I ain't pleased with you or your bullshit," but I don't necessarily want to cake the place with their entrails or make ragu with their squishy bits. Naturally, they fell over themselves to explain they had been stopped by a cop on their way. Say no more. Stop right there. And then I bit my tongue about police, because you never really know what people think about things. I was feeling angry, but now my anger was toward the proper cause of my predicament. Fucking filthy police, fucking with my day from beyond the pale. Fucking die, you horrible, abominable fucks. So I get in my vehicle, boiling at this point, muttering obscenities under my breath, leaving my lunch pail at an unusual angle in the passenger seat. I started it up and then flew down the road at 20 miles an hour, the speed limit, with my engine grumbling as it does whenever it's asked to accelerate beyond funeral procession levels of getting a fucking move on. So it sounds like it's being a bit more aggressive than it actually is, which is the only reason I can fathom that a cop who was leaving his house and getting into his cop car mistook this palaver for some Mad Max Road Warrior-esque situation. Police, eh? They select their ranks on the basis of low intelligence, you know. So while they can't help being as thick as two short planks, they still made the choice to become a police, just like a cunt would. I had stopped at the stop sign at the end of the street and taken a cleansing breath before turning into the main road and smoothly ramping up to the speed limit, whereupon I set the cruise control. Then I see the blue and red lights start up behind me. I recognise the police vehicle I'd just driven by on the residential street. Now, dear viewer, I've already described how police are deliberately chosen on the basis that they don't have any meaningful cognitive abilities, if any, but how ignorant would you have to be to fuck with somebody you don't know, somebody who knows exactly where you live because they just passed it? Like I say, not too bright. I pull over and the anger is back. Usually when I'm dealing with people in real life, I put my anger on the back burner and deal with the situation before reaching for it again and grabbing it before realising I forgot to put on the oven mitts. I always feel that being angry means I'm out of control, and yet it's a rare time that I actually see the black mist. So what follows on my part isn't a loss of control of my anger, but a deliberate indulgence in it. For a fucking change, you know. And what better target for the brunt of my disgruntlement than people? I say people, I don't really mean it. Police aren't people, not real people. They bleed blue for a start. That ain't fucking normal. Kill them. With fire. I pulled my insurance card up on the cell phone and had my licence ready, which I handed to them while they jabbered on, and when they asked me what was wrong, I looked at them like I was looking at a dog shit and I said, I'm pissed off because my colleague was late to relieve me and they were late because they had been pulled over by a police. Then I locked my gaze on theirs and narrowed my eyes. Was that you? What a fantastic imagination I have, dear viewer, because I rather fancied they were on the back foot. It wasn't me. I've never met your colleague. I relaxed my grimace a bit, and while wagging my finger I said, all right, I'll let you off. They disappeared into their vehicle for the longest time-wasting cunts. Can't you eat your fucking gun, do the world a favour? After a time they came back with some bullshit where I have to produce proof I'm insured. Fuck off! I know damn well I'm insured. I watch that payment eat up most of my resources every month. Proof? Fucking kiss my arse. It was finally over, so I spun my wheels and got the hell out of there. Guess what happened? I knew it would, because at this point I just felt like being a bit of a cunt myself. On came the blue and red lights. When they approached the vehicle, they had this look of complete disbelief, and I could tell they just wanted to wash their hands of me while not losing face. I don't know, perhaps they already had plans to go and murder some marginalised people, or go and get donuts, or get the marginalised people to bring them donuts and then murder them. They're busy, the police. At this point, I'm trying not to laugh at this clown shoes. They babble on about me speeding away, and I say, I don't believe you. You can't pull those numbers up to back up what you say. They babble on some more, so I pull up my hand. No shake, no tremble, rock solid still, and subtle like I make the calm down motion. They say some more things I don't listen to, and then return to their vehicle. That was my Sunday morning after a 13-hour shift. Well, 13 hours and 12 minutes. It was more than 12 minutes, but sometimes you have to have artistic license. It felt good yelling at police, calling them out, justified or not. Who cares? They're police. It felt really, really good, dear viewer. It was reckless of me, of course, to be such an angry hamster for what amounts to nothing, but sometimes you have to go down the less compliant path just to see what they'll do. In the case of US police, it would usually mean them shooting you stone dead and then complaining you did it to yourself while falling down the stairs and not wearing a seatbelt. Well, that's all for this episode. It was really just a straight recounting of events that I thought might amuse. Thanks for watching, and remember, kill police, fire to the prisons, eat at Joe's. Good night.